Imagine waking up to news that your country was at war, and by the time you'd had breakfast it was over. Not a truce, not a ceasefire. The war was finished. One side had completely surrendered. This isn't fiction. This happened. A war that lasted just 38 minutes, but left a mark on history far bigger than its length. And today we're going to break it down, the politics, the chaos, and the sheer speed of the shortest war in human history. But be warned, this is not just a quirky trivia fact. The 38-minute war was the end of an era and the beginning of a new kind of world. To understand how the shortest war in history began, we need to travel back to the late 19th century, when the British Empire was at its height, and Zanzibar was a jewel of the Indian Ocean. Zanzibar was a strategic island off the coast of modern-day Tanzania, and a hub for spices, ivory, and sadly the East African slave trade. Britain had influence here, but Zanzibar wasn't a colony yet. It was ruled by a sultan, and the British kept him in power as long as he played along with their interests. But in August of 1896, that delicate balance shattered. The Sultan suddenly died, and the man who took the throne was not the man the British wanted. And here's the thing, the entire war could have been avoided if just one man had stepped aside. The new Sultan Khalid bin Barghash moved fast. Within hours of the previous Sultan's death, he took control of the palace without British approval. Britain's man on the ground, Basil Cave, sent an ultimatum: step down or face consequences. Khalid ignored them. In fact, he barricaded himself inside the palace with 3,000 armed supporters, heavy artillery, and a royal yacht fitted with weapons. The British, in true imperial style, didn't bluff. They assembled warships in the harbor, armed marines, and trained their guns directly at the palace. The clock was ticking. At this point, war was inevitable. But nobody knew it would end faster than a tea break. The British gave Khalid an exact deadline: leave the palace by 9 a.m. on August 27, 1896. Khalid's response? He ordered the palace gates locked and his men to prepare for a fight. At 8 a.m. the harbor was full of British warships. His Majesty's ship St. George, along with her sister warships Philomel and Raccoon, their guns trained on the Sultan's palace. Civilians fled the streets. The air was tense. And then 9 a.m. struck. What happened next would be over before most people even finished their morning tea. The British opened fire. The palace was ripped apart in minutes, artillery shells tearing through its walls. Khalid's artillery fired back, but their aim was poor and their guns were outmatched. One shell from the British hit the Sultan's yacht, setting it ablaze and sending it to the bottom of the harbor. Within 20 minutes, the palace was in ruins. Khalid fled through a back door to the German consulate. By 9:38 a.m., the war was over. The British had lost one man injured. The Sultan's side had over 500 casualties. And just like that, 38 minutes had rewritten Zanzibar's future forever. In the short term, the British installed a new Sultan, one who was very much in their pocket. In the long term, the war cemented British dominance in East Africa. Zanzibar's independence was effectively gone. The 38-minute war wasn't just a curiosity. It was a symbol of the brutal efficiency of imperial power in the late 19th century. It showed how quickly an empire could crush resistance and how fragile smaller nations really were in the shadow of colonial expansion. The shortest war in history left scars that lasted decades. So, what do we learn from the shortest war in history? That wars don't have to last years to change the course of nations. That power, when concentrated in the hands of a few, can be unleashed with shocking speed. And maybe, just maybe, it teaches us that sometimes the most dangerous wars are the ones we never see coming. 38 minutes. A blink in human history, yet a reminder that in the game of power, time is not always on your side. If you enjoyed this story, imagine what other forgotten moments shaped our world. Hit subscribe, and let's keep turning the pages of history together.